Wow, that Pokemon Direct this morning from Pokemon Sword and Shield was incredible. I did not see that new feature coming. I'm referring, of course, to Dynamax. It was it was so unexpected, but the name itself, Dynamax, it doesn't mean anything because like we've only just learned about it. But surprisingly, what if I told you that instead of being something that they just came up with for Generation 8 Sword and Shield in the Galar region, what if I told you that Dynamax actually has been in the anime, in the Pokemon lore, since Generation 1? Now, most of you who are veteran Pokemon fans and have been watching the anime since you were little, like myself, probably already know what I'm referring to, but actually, there's a lot more examples that most of you aren't aware of, and I want to go in depth into all the anime instances that explain exactly why there are giant Pokemon in certain episodes. And it may not be exactly the same phenomena, but I think that there's enough similarities that it justifies eliminating a coincidence, because sometimes it's just too good to be true. And yeah, there's no way this is a coincidence. So first, I'd like to remind you all of the last big new features of the last two generations. Generation 6 introduced Mega Evolution. Mega Evolution takes power from Mega Stones and the trainer and combines them into a Pokemon, into their genes, into their DNA, and that mutates them into a stronger temporary form. Z Crystals from Generation 7, introduced in the Alola region, are similar. They take power from nature, and more specifically from concentrated energy in crystals, Z Crystals, and from the trainer, and combine them into a Pokemon's moves, not into their body, like Mega Evolution does. Now, I was not expecting anything this drastic before the Pokemon Direct this morning, but as soon as I saw it, and I went into detail about the mechanics, I saw that it was a perfect fusion of both Mega Evolution and Z moves. Because for those of you who weren't paying attention to all the websites that go into detail about this, and you only saw the trailer, or even if you didn't see the trailer, I'll explain. Dynamax, for 3 turns, so it's temporary, it doesn't last the whole battle, for 3 turns, makes your Pokemon into a giant, which of course makes it stronger, but we don't know the details about how it makes it stronger, so that part is like Mega Evolution. However, it also transforms all of your moves into max moves, or max versions of the moves, and that part is like Z moves. And it seems, although we may need confirmation, it seems that unlike Z moves, which can only be used once per battle, while it's true that Dynamax can only be used once per battle, it lasts 3 turns. So it lasts less than Mega Evolution. Max moves is more than Z moves, because all of your moves for 3 turns turn into max versions. So Thunderbolt turns into Lightning Max, and Brick Break, it seems, turns into Knuckle Max, and a Grass type move turned into Overgrow Max, or something like that, Overgrowth Max. So yeah, they perfectly combined Mega Evolution and Z moves. But I want to go into the lore, into the legends and the explanation for what this works. And the trailer in the Direct actually gave enough footage for me to figure it out right away, because it's pretty obvious. In the trailer, you see the trainer in the wild running towards those giant beacons of light, scattered throughout the whole region. They're everywhere. In fact, every single gym is built on a location where there is a beacon. Now, we didn't see the beacon 3 months ago, in February, but we did see ruins everywhere. So we do know that there's a lot of ancient history in the Galar region. My theory, which seems to be confirmed basically by the trailer today, is that scattered throughout the Galar region are these special hot zones where energy comes up from deep within the earth, ancient energy, a primal energy not dissimilar from the infinity energy, which, depending on the wavelength, is what my theory is. It determines if it's like the Z move energy, or the Mega Evolution energy, or primal reversion energy, or stuff like that. And it seems that this energy is only powerful in those spots where they come out of the ground, in those beacons of light. So that is why Dynamax can only occur at those specific locations, including the gyms. So you cannot, my theory at least, is that you cannot Dynamax anywhere. Of course, there's a special item, a max band, which lets you Dynamax. Maybe that'll let you use the energy anywhere, but so far they've only shown it in gyms and at those beacons against raid battles. Now, I should probably get to the whole point of what I mean by the source of this energy. This ancient energy, while similar to Mega Evolution, in that, it uses a special item on your wrist, just like Z moves in Mega Evolution, it doesn't put the energy into the DNA of the Pokemon like Mega Evolution. It doesn't mutate them at a genetic level. It mutates their size. Now, we've seen this countless times, because what have we seen ever since Pokemon has been introduced? Pokeballs. Shrinking Pokemon for 20 years into little balls. So if the technology for Pokeballs is what makes Pokemon small, then obviously it seems to reason that the reversion of this technology, which is not recent by the way, in the Pokemon lore, Pokeballs are ancient technology, somehow ancient versions of them is what we'll go into to explain this. Pokeballs can turn Pokemon big. Now, standard Pokeballs obviously aren't designed to do this, but Dynamax somehow is. So, while Mega Evolution infuses the energy, Mega Evolution energy, into Pokemon's genes, and Z moves infuses Z energy, Z aura, into a Pokemon's moves, it seems apparent that the energy for Dynamax is going into Pokeballs. It's not going as much into the Pokemon as it is into their Pokeballs. This powers up the Pokeball with this ancient technology, which has existed, based on some of the runes with the giant Pokemon we've seen in the first trailer 3 months ago. It infuses the Pokeball in such a way that it allows the Pokemon to become bigger and more powerful. So, yeah, some of the energy is obviously in the Pokemon himself, but it doesn't change form like Mega Evolution, but it kind of does. It's a fusion of Mega Evolution and Z moves at a conceptual level. So, where is this evidence of ancient giant Pokemon and ancient Pokeballs and ancient giant Pokeballs? Well, it's very clear. In the anime, there was an episode where a giant Dragonite, or what was obviously a Dragonite, even if it wasn't named directly, was seen at Bill's lighthouse in the ocean, scared off by Team Rocket before it could be studied by Bill. Now, this giant Dragonite never received a proper explanation. I was actually planning on making a video theorizing that it is the same result from the Totem Pokemon in the Alola region, because Z energy from Ultra Wormholes have over time radiated onto certain Pokemon, making them bigger, which is why we have Totem Pokemon. But Totem Pokemon, while they may be bigger than all Pokemon before them, are nothing compared to Dynamax. Dynamax makes Totem Pokemon look like mice. They're just like insects. So obviously, Dynamax and that giant Dragonite cannot be explained simply by the energy in the Alola region making Totem Pokemon. And by the way, Totem Pokemon are permanently big, while Dynamax in battle is more temporary. So we may need to tweak our theory in the future to explain why some wild Pokemon in the anime were gigantic. So again, we could just say that if a wild Pokemon is absorbing this Galar energy, which for all we know exists in other places in the world other than the Galar region, because, based on ancient mythological beliefs and other esoteric beliefs, the world is crisscrossed by ley lines, and wherever these ley lines intersect is a point of power. So, since the Galar region has a very deep history, dating back hundreds of years, it wouldn't be surprising that places like Stonehenge is related to ley lines, which, with some research I found out is true. So, since they're going this route, it looks like maybe these power places are not just in the Galar region, they could be in other places too. So, we'll state the theory as being that that Dragonite in that episode is a giant Dynamax Pokemon. And not just that, there's also an episode where there was a giant Tentacruel destroying a city. And it was never explained exactly how a Tentacruel can be that size. Dynamax offers a very good explanation. Not only that, but in the Hoenn region, there was an episode where they find a giant stone Pokeball dating back about 20,000 years. And inside that giant stone Pokeball, there was a giant clay doll. Now this is where my Dynamax theory is specifically important. If the Pokeball itself is built to make Pokemon big, it'll make them big. Since technically modern Pokeballs already shrink Pokemon, and we know for a fact that Pokeballs existed in the past. We have plenty of examples of ancient Pokeballs in the anime, including the more recent Apricorn Pokeballs, but also ancient stone Pokeballs. So while the modern Pokeball was first introduced in the Johto region made of apricorns, it is not the first Pokeball of all time. It's just the first modern Pokeball being made of apricorns, while the first Pokeballs were more made of stone, and we don't know exactly how or who invented them. But now it seems that all the pieces are falling into place. That giant clay doll was in a giant Pokeball, and not only that, but in another episode of the original series, there was an ancient ruins, which was very similar to all the episodes where Brandon of the Battle Pyramid was researching ancient Pokeballs and ancient clay doll and stuff like that. And that was back way before Brandon was ever introduced in the anime. And there was a giant Gengar and a giant Alakazam, and they had to be beaten by a giant Jigglypuff. And they all had tattoos, and they were all stored in items that weren't even Pokeballs, but they were essentially the equivalent of Pokeballs, but just shaped differently. All these pieces falling into place doesn't surprise me. It might be a coincidence. It may be that they didn't plan this from the beginning, but it would be a great idea if they did. And the reason that humans now are able to activate this phenomena of Dynamax was also introduced back in the Hoenn region in the anime, because there was this one scientist in this, in this filler episode that seemed like nonsense at the time, where he accidentally invents a machine that turns Pokemon big, and he accidentally makes a Gulpin into a giant, and Ash's Trico had to battle it by turning into a giant as well, and it was temporary. So it seems that if humans are starting to study this phenomenon, they are applying it to modern Pokeballs, because it seems obvious that it was already applied by ancient people thousands of years ago into ancient Pokeballs. And it doesn't seem that ridiculous, because if it stands to reason that a modern Pokeball can be manipulated to turn a human into a miniature size, then why not a Pokemon into a gigantic size? They've done it so many times already. In fact, I bet there's examples that I've even forgotten to mention, because there's only so much research I can do, and not miss anything. I'm pretty sure I missed at least something. And this is exciting. That the very first day of the new feature of Sword and Shield being Dynamax, and we already have all this connections to anime dating back to Kanto and Hoenn in the anime. So I'm really happy about this. To review, I think that ancient energies that are very plentiful in the Galar region, in certain spots, like under gyms, for example, which is why they were built in those locations, allow Pokemon to become big if they live there long enough, and they can also temporarily turn trainers' Pokemons big by infusing that energy using a max band on your wrist to, infuse the Pokeball. So the Pokeball itself turns into like a big holographic beach ball sized version, and your Pokemon turns big for 3 turns. It's a very, very interesting phenomena, and I'm very excited to see what Professor Magnolia of the Galar region is going to reveal when I finally play Sword and Shield in 5 months. So what do you guys think? Is this interesting? Is this a good theory? Do you think I'm right? I'm pretty sure I'm on the right track, because it finally gives a very good explanation for all those giant Pokemon in the past. That Dragonite, that Alakazam, Gengar, Jigglypuff, the Tentacruel, the modern Gulpin and Trico, the ancient Claydol, and also the ancient Pokeballs made of stone that we've seen in Brandon's research and also in Hoenn, that Claydol was stored in it, and it explains like not just the lore of giant Pokemon, but the lore of Pokeballs themselves, and it connects the anime with the video games, and I really like it. And I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget to check out my channel for more videos like this. I'll be covering Sword and Shield as much as possible. I still haven't gone over the new Pokemon introduced. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share with a friend, and comment down below and check out my channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys next time.